Hi, I'm Genevieve, and you're watching Tell Your Story. The Kids Clothes Closet has been serving the greater Boston area for over 25 years. We spoke with Director Sunny Shaw to learn more about this community asset.
My name is Sunny Shaw. I'm the director of the Kids Clothes Closet at the Emmanuel Episcopal Parish, 519 Washington Street, Braintree. About 1991-92, we did a survey of what was needed in the community, and we found that we had food pantries, but we had nothing for clothes. We need a place where families can come and get, good, clean, usable clothes, wearable clothes for their children, and save money. Our clothes are all sorted for cleanliness and wearability, and if we wouldn't put it on our children, we don't put it in the bins. So we're pretty careful about what we put in here. We give you a basket and you pick out your own clothes, and a lot of times the kids come and they pick out their own clothes, and they're much more likely to wear it if they pick it out themselves. So we've found that the kids really love coming because they love their shopping, and they tell everybody that they got such a great deal, and it's good for the children, it's good for the parents. Wouldn't some young boy love to wear this? I think so. Yep. So it's nice and clean and it's in good condition. It's a very safe environment because we don't invade their privacy in any way. All they have to do is tell us their name and how can we help you, and we do help them. So we get clients from all over the South Shore. We'll get calls from people who are in an emergency situation, and I'll open the closet for anybody who needs anything. If there's a fire or a flood, or sometimes people through no fault of their own are homeless and they don't have a lot of clothes because it's in storage, so they might come in for a couple of outfits to get them through. We ask for a $2 donation, but that money all goes back to the schools. Since our inception, we have been helping school nurses because they are the ones who deal with families that either are in crisis or are in need in some way. And so we give gift cards to the school nurses to buy underwear and socks and sweatpants for the children in the school who need them, and oftentimes you never get them back, so it's a renewable resource. You don't have to come for yourself if you're fine, but you might know a neighbor or a friend or someone that you've heard through your church or your social organization that's going through a hard time. And we also serve grandparents. That's one of the wonderful things about us, is that sometimes grandparents have custody of their grandchildren, or their children are visiting from out of state or out of season, so they can come and get a couple of outfits for their grandchildren who are staying with them, and then when they're through, they can bring them back. The other thing that you need to know is that we serve the greater Boston area. There's nothing like this closet anywhere in the greater Boston area that I know of. Look at that, isn't that great? I mean, really, if I were 12, I'd wear it. So we encourage everybody to come. It's not for the poor. I think people have the misconception that you have to be poor to use the closet. No, not at all. Clothes are so expensive now. If you come to the closet, all we really care about is how we can help you. Why do I do it? Well, it's a long story. But the bottom line is that when I was a child, my parents were immigrants from Lebanon, and we had a very, very difficult time. My parents were very ill. They couldn't care for us in the way that they would have wanted. And so I'm the youngest of four, so times were very difficult, very, very hard. And I was not able to get the things that most kids were able to have. I had the hand-me-downs plus the hand-me-downs. And so I said, if ever I had a chance, I would want to do something for children so that they would never feel embarrassed about the way they dressed. And that really was the motivation behind the whole thing. When you're a child, your appearance is everything. And when you're an adult, you can understand why you couldn't have what you wanted. But as a child, all you really want is that, whatever it is, that dress or that pair of shoes or that new jacket. It's like going back into your childhood. When I look at the children who come here and who are just so thrilled to get the coat or the dress or the pair of shoes that they have picked out themselves, and their faces light up and say, "Oh, I really love this." It's like I'm feeding that child that once wanted whatever it is that I remember wanting.
The women of BCAM participated in the RAD Basic Physical Defense Program, instructed by the Braintree Police Department. Every 98 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted.
9 out of every 10 victims of rape are women.
1 out of every 6 American women has been a victim of rape or attempted rape.
On average, 66% of all sexual assaults go unreported.
1 in 5 female college students have experienced sexual assault while in college.
RAD is a self-defense program that was developed to empower women and give viable options for self-defense.
I really wanted to just take this class to be empowered and know what to do if I was ever caught in a situation where I was in danger. A lot of the moves that we learned in class were moves that are really easy to learn, but very effective if you needed to escape from someone who's trying to, hold you down.
We're goalie! Here we go, goalie!
The first few days of RAD, we focused on training. We learned how to block, how to punch, how to kick. And on the last day, we had our simulation. You try to remember everything that you learned during the last few classes during the simulation, but your instincts totally take over.
The point of RAD wasn't to learn how to kick somebody's butt, but to assess the situation with the tools that we learned, fight back, and get out of a dangerous situation in order to survive.
My t-shirt's older than you. You ready? Woo!
During simulation, you get a little bit caught off guard, but I think that's why it's important, because you really get to practice what would really happen in the situation.
Ready for this? My gym. My gym.
Get up, there you go. Still in it, still in it. Where do you need to go?
Here you go, here you go.
There you go, there you go.
Here you go, back.
There you go. Remember where you need to get. Yo, yo, yo. Use your legs, there you go.
In class, there's just such a bond between all the women, and they're so supportive of each other.
We going.
I was really interested in taking this class because I feel like it's really important for women anywhere to know how to defend themselves.
What are you gonna do?
We want to thank the Braintree Police Department for teaching us how to stand up for ourselves.
We must score! Great athleticism by the Lady Wong. Looking for the pylon, and he's got it. Touchdown, Braintree. Off the glass for 2.
Shot from Stimson, and it's redirected in front.
Attention WOMPs! We spoke with the Director of Guidance at BHS to learn valuable tips to keep in mind during the college application process.
My name is Anthony Garofalo. I'm the Director of Guidance here for the Braintree Public Schools, and I've been working here going on, this is my 17th year. Well, in freshman year, and this might sound simple, but the most important things kids can do is come in here, set goals for themselves, get off to the right foot, and do as well as they can academically and begin to find what other areas they're going to have a passion for. Sophomore year, same thing. Keep doing that, but at that point, kids start taking the PSAT exam. After they get results, we start doing career inventories and so forth, and they need to at least start brainstorming and getting ideas on what they might be interested in, and spend some time, if they don't know what they're interested in, with the tools we give them, exploring careers, exploring fields, what might be something I fit in, what won't I fit in, and trying out elective classes here or things on the outside of school that maybe help them answer those questions. So for freshman and sophomore year, those are probably the most important things they can do. Junior year, yeah, that's when it's time where they start, taking their real college assessment exams, start visiting colleges, and that we can't stress enough. And to be honest, start doing that sophomore year too, I should have said. But if they haven't, getting out and seeing as many places as they can, because if kids don't start opening up their eyes to what's out there, they're not going to know what to look for. And then we do a lot of work with the students on how to go about actually researching specific colleges, how to develop a list, what are the things they need to be doing to apply to college, which gets us in the senior year where a lot of our kids are now as far as the nuts and bolts, the things about the applications. But all that work leading up to it, if you do that, senior year is really not as hard as you think it is. The role of the parent is, and this is the easy answer, is to say, not too much, not too little. Because on one hand, you need to be actively involved, and especially if you're going to pay for some of it, you should be involved. But aside from that, encouraging students, making sure they're getting out to doing visits, have they met with their guidance counselors? When they get to the financial aid part, the parents have a much bigger role. They actually need to submit those documents. What I mean by not doing too much, parents should not be filling out applications for the students. This is the students' time where they have to take responsibility for it. Parents, yes, should have some input on maybe some colleges on the list, but they shouldn't be developing the whole list for the students. So it's that middle ground between supporting and not pushing too hard, but not ignoring it at all either. Good number to apply to, and we always say the average number of our students apply to 6 to 8 colleges. So let's say 6 to 7 is kind of perfect, because we always say, you'll have 1 or 2 reach schools, those schools that may be slightly above your profile, but we're going to give it our best shot. And those work out sometimes. 1 or 2 safety schools, the schools we know, you have an excellent chance of getting into. And then another 4 or 5 that match what you're looking for and what the college is looking for. And if you do that, 6 to 7 is usually the great number. Where it differs is some students, if you're applying to a more competitive major, or some students who are applying to, Ivy League schools and more elite, sometimes they have to apply to a higher number of schools. So that number can go a little higher. As far as how many to visit, I always say if you apply to 7 schools, you probably should have visited twice that amount. Now that's not always possible. A lot of our students maybe don't get that high of a number, because it is a lot, and if you start sophomore year, junior year, it's easier to do that. But in general, I wouldn't want a student to only have visited 3 or 4 schools. It really definitely needs to be higher than that. So it's hard to put a number on it, but I always say, how many did you apply to? You probably should have visited double that. So. And the quote that I hear all the time, and it's from a former guidance director who knew this stuff better than I do, colleges aren't looking to enroll a well-rounded student. They're looking to enroll a class of well-rounded students. And there's a distinction there. And the point being is a well-rounded student, some kids say I'm a well-rounded student because I have 13 different activities. Colleges don't really look for that. They would rather the kid who has excelled or has a big passion in 1 or 2 or 3 areas versus the kid who has more areas but didn't do as much with those areas, if that makes sense. So yeah, what's your passion? Where do you stand out? So we call it you don't want to go for the laundry list of activities, and a lot of people make that mistake. So the person who commits to an activity for 4 straight years versus 4 years of 4 different activities, the commitment to 4 years of one activity stands out better. Because that means if they have a kid who's the great athlete, the great musician, the talented, artist, that's a well-rounded campus. The kid who has 13 different activities is the well-rounded student, and that's the distinction. As the year goes on, we get notice of a lot of scholarships that come to our attention. We post them all there. And we tell kids as the year goes on, especially in November, December, January, February, you should be looking on Naviance once a week to see if we put any new scholarships up there. Do they meet any of your criteria? And should you apply for them? Because the ones we put on our Naviance page are more local scholarships, more regional, versus you can Google, fastweb.com is a great website to research scholarships. But a lot of the scholarships there are national, so you're competing with a million kids. The local ones are the ones you have a better chance of getting. And unlike applying to colleges where you apply to 6 or 7 and maybe you get admitted to 3 or 4, scholarships, you just need to keep applying to as many and hope you get 1 or 2 along the way. And it's a great question because a lot of kids ignore that piece of it because they're done applying to school, they do their financial aid applications, and yes, some scholarships come from that, but there's a lot of individual private scholarships that if you pay attention, you can get them. I'll tell you one quick thing that reflects how I say kids forget about the scholarship. I remember a couple years ago, there was a local bank who was given a scholarship, and I happened to be on the phone with the lady because they also do a scholarship for our scholarship program separately. And I said, I noticed you chose, won't say the kid's name, why'd you choose them for the scholarship? And she said, well, she was the only one who applied. And this wasn't just, it was for like Braintree, Quincy, whatever. One kid applied, that's why they got this $1,000. And that just speaks to how scholarships are out there to be had and you need to spend some time on it.
We got a look at the new hut spot in town, Widowmaker Brewing.
My name's Ryan Lavery. I'm a owner and brewer here at Widowmaker Brewing.
Where did the name come from?
It came from the amount of time I would spend away from my wife, and then when I had a daughter, my wife and daughter, down in the basement making beer for my friends. Colin Foley and myself, he's one of my partners, were home brewing for years. Early 2016, we started looking for funding to open a brewery in Quincy. We started a GoFundMe. A person who saw it is now our third partner, Bud Lazaro. He called me up, asked me what we were trying to do with the money we were crowdfunding, and it just progressed to become a partnership rather than him donating money to the crowdfunding. We have a 15-barrel hot liquor tank, so basically that's where we heat our water. And this right here is our 7-barrel mash tun. So this is where our warm water, hot water, meets grains. They steep anywhere from half-hour mashes to 90-minute mashes. And what you create in that is called wort, and our wort goes into our boil kettle right here. That's where you add your sugars, your hops, anything like that. I homeschooled myself through the internet and through books. The internet's a great resource. Of the 5 beers that we have on tap today, I've been brewing those all for anywhere between the last year and a half to 4 or 5 years. These are recipes I've spent a lot of time creating. I'm really proud of our Donut Shop Coffee Stout, and when we opened, we had a Russian Imperial Stout that we blasted through. People were going nuts for. So the most well-known is Sens Lives. I'd been seeing that spray painted all over Weymouth, Braintree, Quincy, really crudely on like mailboxes and walls, and I didn't know what it meant. And a couple years later, as we were gearing up to open this place, the name got out of some of our beers, and Sens Lives was one of them. And within like an hour of it being on somebody's Facebook, we were being inundated with this group of friends for this artist who died named Craig Hansen, who was a graffiti artist named Sens. His friends were spray painting Sens Lives all over the place. Then we got in touch with their family, and we actually have a mural on the wall, which is the last piece that his family had of Craig's. And that's probably one of the more memorable names that we have for a beer. Everybody likes IPAs. I'm going to try to convert everybody into stout drinkers. I like dark beers, especially as the weather changes. I like a gentle to a vigorous pour. So you start a little slow, get it going, and then get, make it come alive near the end. But if it's a beer that's intended to have a thick head, like a Saison, I pour a little stronger. Or if it's a IPA, it's usually so carbonated that you'll usually have about a fingernail of head. The support of the community has been awesome. We couldn't be happier. I think we're giving the town a venue that they haven't had before. A big European beer hall style room, and that's what we're really going to, somewhere that welcomes the community. And right now we're just doing taproom hours, but I envision this room being a place where the people of the town can come and utilize for private events and different gatherings.
From the courts to the track to her office, the athletic trainer at BHS can be seen supporting the Womps on and off the field.
What an athletic trainer is, it's someone that works with athletes, but we do more than rehab, or we do more than make them bigger, faster, stronger. We're the first responders out on the field, so if someone goes down with an injury, we're the first ones out there that get to them to give them that medical care that they need. Right after school, my office turns into Grand Central Station, usually a variety of people coming through. A lot of times they're coming in, either they had injuries that happened the day prior during a contest or a practice, or they're coming in because they already had an injury and we're going through rehab. And we also see kids that are coming from a psychosocial area. So kids that are having a hard time in school, maybe they need someone to talk to. We're another ear that they can come and vent to. Those athletes trust us in what they're doing and know that we're here to listen to them. Being an athlete to one sport is awesome. Everyone wants to be that superstar, and that's great. The only problem is when you focus on one sport, then your muscles are only getting used in that one sport. So only certain muscles are being used there. If you start doing training outside of that one sport, we'll use soccer for example. You play soccer all the time, your body gets used to those muscles that get worked, and those other muscles that aren't engaged because they're not necessary for playing soccer are weaker. Say if you play another sport or cross-train with something else, it works those opposite muscles, so it helps prevent those injuries from happening. So it's very key to make sure that you're doing a variety of different exercises to make sure that the muscles, all of your muscles, get worked out. So I am one of the few athletic trainers that gets to carry Narcan. The opioid crisis is huge. A lot of people have noticed that physicians have been quick to diagnose injuries and try to come up with a quick fix. And that quick fix might be some Percocets. And you take some of those and see how you do, and then go from there. Instead of going to prescribing them physical therapy or to see someone for pain management, an athletic trainer maybe that can work with them. So when they do that quick fix, the athlete starts to rely on that quick fix, realizing that that medication can easily take away their problems. Well, the more that you get into that quick fix, you try to find a cheaper way because the doctor's going to say, oh, well, I gave you X amount, I'm not going to give you any more. They reach out and try to find something else that will help with that. So that's when you start seeing people getting into fentanyl, getting into heroin, cocaine, because it's cheaper and it's a way for them to get that quick fix. What happens is the body's not used to that amount. So again, like fentanyl, where it's very, very potent, when they get that into their system, their brain starts to shut down. So the receptors for the pain get closed off, and then they start to, the body starts shutting down in terms of not breathing. So they start to stop breathing. When that happens, the best way to get those receptor sites, the opioid off those receptor sites, is to use Narcan. It knocks it off and allows the person to come back. Hydration is a huge one. Your body, when you're an athlete, you need to be drinking at least 5 to 10 bottles of water a day. Add on the sweat that you're losing when you're working out and doing your sport, You need to replenish all of that water that you're losing. So that's even more bottles of water. Concussions are a jolt or bump to the body or to the head that can cause a disruption in how the neurotransmitters function. If you get hit in the head, your brain is like jelly inside a jar, and you get hit or bumped, that jelly wiggles around in there. When it wiggles around, it pulls on those connective tissues in the brain, and it causes damage in there. Concussions are hard because it's not something that you can see. It's not a bruise. It's not a broken bone. To diagnose one, it's bringing an athlete through neurocognitive thinking processes. The impact test does that. It's neurological testing. So what we do is we have them do a baseline. The baseline tells us how their brain functions on a normal average day. If then we think that they may have a concussion or a head injury, we have them take that same test, and seeing how their brain functions after that hit helps us to better understand what's going on in there. When I'm out there, you'll see me driving around in the golf cart, and that's because I have so much stuff that's with me. The staples that I have with me, usually I have my AED with me, I have the Narcan with me, I have it's called an Ambu bag. On my person, you see me with my cool little fanny pack that I go running on the fields with. Usually I have my gloves, my gauze. I have tape for quick taping, Band-Aids. I have my little cheat sheet for concussion, sideline concussion evaluations. For the fall, we also have rescue tools for football, because in case someone goes down, they stop breathing, I need to be able to remove their face mask as soon as possible. So I have different tools in there for that. I have my scissors that I can cut off a jersey quickly if need be. But I also have a huge kit that I call my traveling office. So anything that you can imagine in here, from Visine to chapstick to cough drops to you name it, I have it in there.
If you have a story to tell, contact BCAM TV and you could be featured on the next episode. Until then, I'm Genevieve, and this is Tell Your Story.